So on numbers 1 and 2, I am writing equations of lines, and the first one is parallel, so that means same slope. And the second one is perpendicular, so that means opposite reciprocal. Then the equation for a line, remember, is y equals mx plus b. So what I'm going to do is, if I look at this line, my x and y is my point for the new line. And then on the line I'm looking at, I don't care about the end number, but I care about the slope right here. And if it's parallel, my slope is exactly that number up front, 5. So what I have to do is I have to solve for my b so I can plug into this equation. So instead of writing y, I have 4 equals 5 is my m, 1 is my x, I don't know b. Okay? Then I'm going to do 5 times 1, so that should have been equals. Then I want to subtract 5 on both sides, and I get negative 1 equals b. Then I'm going to plug back into this equation. I only want to plug back in m and b. Okay. So I have y equals, my m was 5, x minus 1. I'm going to do the same thing for number 2, except my slope is perpendicular, so when I get to my slope, that's a little different. Instead of being 3, it's going to be m equals 1/3, because I flipped the fraction, because this one is over a secret 1. And then I also have to change the sign, so it becomes a negative 1/3. So then I'm going to plug in, instead of y I have 2, m is negative 1/3, x is negative 3 plus b. Negative 1/3 times negative 3 is a positive 1. I can think of this as dividing by negative 3. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. Okay. And then I still have my plus b. I subtract 1 on both sides, and I have 1 equals b. Then I want to plug back in my m and b values. So I have y equals negative 1/3 x plus 1. Moving on, I want to look at different kinds of angles. So my first one is B and H. So if I look, they are on opposite sides of the transversal, in between the parallel lines. So they are alternate interior angles. Okay. I can spell angles. Then the next one it wants me to compare is E and F. Those two are right next to each other. They make a linear pair because they make a straight line together. Then I want to look for alternate exterior angles. These are on opposite sides of the transversal outside the parallel lines. So I have A and G is a pair. Or, on the test you only have to write one. F and D is a pair. A pair of corresponding angles means same spot, different line. So F and B. E and A, G and C, and H and D. Remember, like I said, you only need one pair on the test. This one wants me to say the other three angles that measure 154 degrees, given that the two lines are parallel. So I know these two are vertical, and then corresponding gets me to 5, alternate exterior will give me 6. So my other angles are angles 2, angle 5, and angle 6. Okay. I want to prove that vertical angles are congruent. So I'm going to say given angle, and then I'm going to pick one. I'm going to say G. Rotate 180 degrees. So if I rotate angle G 180 degrees, it's going to move it right here. Then angle G is mapped onto angle E. By rigid motion, angle E is congruent to angle G. Therefore, vertical angles are congruent. I want to prove that corresponding angles are congruent. So what I want to say is given these lines aren't labeled. The diagram I'm going to pick an angle. So I'm going to start with angle F. Angle F is translated. So that's the one where we move it left and right. Down to angle B. By rigid motion. Angle B is congruent to angle F. Therefore, corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, this one is talking about a line that the rope is tied between two trees. I want to figure out the measure of angle 2. So my trees are my parallel lines. Okay. The rope in between is my transversal. So these two angles are consecutive interior. Consecutive interior angles add up to 180. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have angle 2 plus 76 equals 180. Then I want to subtract 76 on both sides, and I get angle 2 equals 104 degrees. Okay. This one, it's telling me that the two angles in the picture are congruent. No, it's not telling me that. It's telling me that the lines are parallel, and then because they're corresponding angles, they're congruent. Congruent. Okay. Why did I do 2 i's? Yep. So I'm going to set them equal to each other. I have 2x plus 20 equals 3x minus 10. I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. I have 20 equals 3x minus 10. I add 10 to both sides. I get 30, I shouldn't have written there, equals 3x. I divide by 3 on both sides. I get x equals 10. Notice, this question asks me 2 things. It asks for the value of x and the measure of FOB. So I have to go and plug back in. Okay. So FOB is the 2x plus 20. Ooh, that's crooked. So So 2 times 10. Measure of FOB equals 40. Number 12 works similarly. I have to find the measure of x and then the measure of BOG. These ones are consecutive, so they are supplementary, which means they add to 180. I have 3x plus 20 plus 2x equals 180. I get 5x plus 20 equals 180. I subtract 20. I get 5x equals 160. I divide by 5. I get x equals 32. So that's one of my answers. Then I have to plug back in. It wants me to find BOG. So BOG is this one. I have okay, 3 times 32 is 96. 96 plus 20 is 116. Number 3 is telling me that the two lines are parallel and then I need to find the value of x. So if they're parallel, these two are congruent by corresponding, and not corresponding, by vertical, and then this is corresponding. So I'm going to go and fill in my diagram with 118s because all those are the same. This one is not the same, so they are a linear pair, and they are going to be supplementary. So what I want to do is I want to add the two together. So I have 8x plus 6 plus 118 equals 180. 6 plus 18 gives me 124. And I want to subtract 124 from both sides. I get 8x equals 56. And then I divide both sides by 8. And I get x equals 7. Okay. Number 14 wants me to prove alternate interior angles are congruent by filling in my reasons. So I have line M is parallel to line N. That was given to me. Then I have angle 4 and angle 2. These are vertical angles. Angle 2 goes to angle 6 by corresponding angles. And then looking only at my reasons, what I did was I took 4 to 2 and 2 to 6. I cut out the middleman, which was 2, and that is using the transitive property. Okay. Number 15 wants me to find the value of x that makes the two lines parallel. These are supplementary. So I'm going to add them together. And set it equal, add them. And set it equal to 180. 2x and x gives me 3x. 10 and 5 gives me 15. Still equals 180. I subtract 15 on both sides. I get 3x equals 165. I divide by 3. I get x equals 55. I want to do the same thing for number 16. These are alternate interiors, so they're congruent. I'm going to set them equal to each other. So I have 5x minus 54 equals 3x plus 16. I want to subtract 3x on both sides. And I have 2x minus 54 equals 16. Then I add 54 to both sides. And I get 2x equals 70. I divide by 2. And I get x equals 35. This one I want to find the value of x that makes h parallel to I. I can tell u and v are parallel because it was given to me. So, because these two are parallel, these two angles right here are congruent. And then I want this to also make this congruent. So by corresponding angles converse, these are all congruent. So I just have to set those two equal to each other. I have 2x plus 4 equals 7x minus 6. Then I subtract 2x on both sides. I get 4 equals 5x minus 6. I add 6 to both sides. I get 10 equals 5x. I divide by 5. And I get 2 equals x. On number 18, it wants me to prove the alternate exterior angles converse by filling in the reasons. So it starts with my given. Then if I look, 1 and 3 are vertical angles. If I look at my chart, I can cut out 1 by the transitive property. So now I'm saying angle 3 is congruent to angle 7, and to prove the lines parallel, I'm going to use the corresponding angles converse.